You must be disciplined, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when the circumstances finally line up and the distractions fall away. You must be disciplined now, because discipline is not something you add to life once everything else is in order. Discipline is what brings order where there is chaos. Discipline is what separates the man who speaks about change from the man who actually changes. And I am not speaking to you as someone standing above you, but as someone who knows the frailty of the human heart, the laziness of the flesh, and the constant temptation to excuse what should be confronted. We live in a generation that loves comfort and despises effort. We are entertained into numbness. We are pacified by convenience. We have learned how to explain our failures, justify our weaknesses, and spiritualize our lack of obedience. We talk about passion, about calling, about purpose, but we neglect the very thing that makes any of those real, discipline. Without discipline, your passion is nothing more than emotion. Without discipline, your calling is nothing more than talk. Without discipline, your purpose is just a word you use to make yourself feel important. You say you want to be strong, but you refuse to train. You say you want to be holy, but you will not deny yourself. You say you want to grow, but you will not submit to structure, to routine, to the slow and often painful process of daily obedience. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not attract applause. It is forged in the unseen moments where no one is watching, where there is no immediate reward, where everything in you wants to quit and nothing in you feels inspired. The problem is not that you lack knowledge. You know what you should do. You know where you are wasting time. You know which habits are destroying you. You know which disciplines would strengthen you. The problem is that you have made peace with disobedience. You have learned to live with a divided heart. You want the results of discipline without the cost of discipline, and it does not work that way. It has never worked that way, and it never will. Discipline is the daily declaration that your life is not ruled by your impulses. It is the refusal to be mastered by your emotions, your appetites, your moods, or your circumstances. It is the decision to live according to truth rather than feeling, and this is where many fail, because feelings are immediate and truth often demands patience. Feelings scream, truth whispers. Feelings promise relief now. Truth promises life later. Look at your life honestly, not with the soft, flattering lens you use when you want to avoid conviction, but with brutal clarity. Are you disciplined with your time, or do your days slip through your fingers while you tell yourself you will change next week? Are you disciplined with your mind, or do you allow it to be filled with whatever is loudest, easiest, and most entertaining? Are you disciplined with your body, or have you surrendered it to excess, laziness, and neglect? Are you disciplined with your words, or do you speak carelessly, react emotionally, and excuse it as personality? Discipline is not about control for control's sake. It is about alignment. It is about bringing every part of your life under submission to what is right. It is about saying that your life has a purpose greater than your comfort. The undisciplined life is a life driven by reaction. The disciplined life is a life driven by conviction. You cannot drift into discipline. You drift into chaos. You drift into compromise. You drift into weakness. Discipline is always intentional. It is always chosen, and it is often chosen against the grain of your natural desires. That is why it is so rare. That is why so few endure. They start with excitement, but when excitement fades, discipline must carry them, and they have not trained themselves to endure. You want to know why so many start well and finish poorly. It is not because they lacked opportunity. It is not because they lacked resources. It is because they lacked discipline. They lived off inspiration instead of obedience. They waited to feel motivated instead of acting on what they knew to be right. And when the fire cooled, they had nothing left to sustain them. Discipline is not legalism. It is not cold, mechanical rule keeping. True discipline flows from love for what is good and hatred for what destroys. It is the guardrail that keeps you from driving off the cliff. It is the structure that allows freedom to exist. Without discipline, freedom becomes slavery to self. Without discipline, grace is abused and truth is diluted. You cannot claim to value something and refuse to discipline yourself for it. What you discipline yourself for reveals what you truly love. If you say you value growth but never invest time in it, you are lying to yourself. If you say you value integrity but make excuses when honesty costs you, you are deceiving your own heart. Discipline exposes priorities. It strips away pretense. The disciplined life is built in small decisions. Not the dramatic ones that everyone sees, but the quiet ones that no one celebrates. Getting up when you do not feel like it. Saying no when it would be easier to say yes. Turning away from what weakens you even when it offers immediate pleasure. Choosing consistency over intensity. Choosing faithfulness over excitement. You must understand this. Discipline is a form of warfare. You are not neutral ground. There is a battle for your mind, your habits, your future. Every undisciplined area of your life becomes an entry point for destruction. Every area you refuse to bring under control will eventually control you. You do not wake up one day enslaved. You wake up one day realizing that the small compromises you tolerated have grown into chains. Stop waiting for discipline to feel natural. It will not. Stop waiting for life to slow down so you can get serious. It will not. There will always be another distraction, another excuse, another reason to delay obedience. Discipline is not about having more time. It is about using the time you have with intention. There is a cost to discipline, and you must be honest about that cost. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you convenience. It will cost you the approval of people who are threatened by your commitment. It will cost you the version of yourself that wants to remain unchallenged. But the cost of undiscipline is far greater. It costs you clarity. It costs you strength. It costs you credibility. It costs you peace. A disciplined life does not mean a perfect life. You will fail. You will stumble. But discipline teaches you how to get back up quickly instead of wallowing in self-pity. It teaches you to repent without despair, to correct without quitting. The undisciplined person uses failure as an excuse to give up. The disciplined person uses failure as a lesson and continues forward. You must stop confusing mercy with permission. Mercy is given to restore you to obedience, not to excuse your refusal to change. Grace is not opposed to effort. It is opposed to earning. Discipline is effort, and effort is required if you are going to live a life that is not wasted. Look at the areas where you are weakest. That is where discipline must begin, not later, not gradually in theory. Begin now in practice. Put structure where there has been chaos. Put boundaries where there has been indulgence. Put accountability where there has been secrecy. You do not overcome weakness by ignoring it. You overcome it by confronting it daily. Discipline is learned through repetition. You do not become disciplined by a single decision, but by thousands of small ones made consistently over time. That is why impatience is the enemy of growth. You want transformation without process, but transformation is process. Strength is built one disciplined choice at a time. You must also understand that discipline is deeply connected to humility. Pride resists discipline because pride believes it should not have to submit. Pride wants exceptions. Pride wants to be the rule. Humility accepts correction. Humility embraces structure. Humility understands that left to itself, the heart drifts. There is nothing heroic about living undisciplined. It is not freedom, it is negligence, and negligence always produces decay. If you neglect your mind, it weakens. If you neglect your character, it erodes. If you neglect your responsibilities, they multiply. Discipline is maintenance of the soul. Stop romanticizing spontaneity while despising order. Order is what allows you to be effective. Order is what allows you to be trusted. Order is what allows your life to bear weight. A life without discipline collapses under pressure. A disciplined life bends but does not break. You cannot separate discipline from obedience. Obedience is discipline expressed in action. It is doing what is right regardless of how you feel. It is aligning your behavior with truth even when your emotions resist. And the more you practice obedience, the more your desires begin to change. Discipline trains the heart. There will be days when discipline feels like death, when every part of you protests, when the easier path calls your name. Those are the days that matter most. Those are the days that define you. Anyone can be disciplined when it feels rewarding. Very few are disciplined when it feels costly. Ask yourself who you want to be in 5 years, not what you want to have, but who you want to be. Then ask yourself what disciplines are required to become that person. And then ask yourself why you are not practicing them now. The future you is being shaped by the daily choices you make or refuse to make today. You do not drift toward excellence. You discipline yourself toward it. You do not accidentally become strong, wise, or faithful. You become those things through repeated obedience. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about direction. The world does not need more people who talk about change. It needs people who live changed lives, and changed lives are disciplined lives. Lives that are governed by conviction rather than convenience. Lives that are willing to say no to themselves in order to say yes to what truly matters. You must stop blaming your circumstances. Discipline thrives even in difficulty. In fact, difficulty often reveals how disciplined you truly are. Anyone can be disciplined when life is easy, but pressure exposes whether your discipline is real or superficial. There is a seriousness required if you are going to live a life that is not shallow. Discipline is seriousness about truth, seriousness about responsibility, seriousness about growth, not grimness, but weight. An understanding that your life matters, and therefore how you live it matters. If you continue as you are, undisciplined, and excusing it, you will look back one day with regret, not because you lacked opportunity, but because you wasted it. Not because you were incapable, but because you were unwilling to submit to the process. You must be disciplined when no one is watching, because character is who you are in the dark. You must be disciplined when you are tired, because fatigue reveals what governs you. You must be disciplined when you are discouraged, because consistency in discouragement is the mark of maturity. Do not ask for a lighter burden, ask for a stronger back. Do not ask for fewer challenges, ask for greater discipline, because discipline does not remove difficulty, it equips you to endure it. You are not entitled to a meaningful life, you must live one deliberately. And deliberateness requires discipline. Without it, you will be swept along by the currents of culture, desire, and distraction until one day you realize you have lived a life that reacted to everything and stood for nothing. This is not about becoming harsh or rigid. True discipline produces clarity, peace, and stability. It simplifies life by removing excess. It focuses energy on what matters. It frees you from the tyranny of impulse. You must decide whether you will govern your life or allow it to be governed by whatever demands your attention next. Discipline is choosing governance. It is choosing mastery over surrender. There will always be reasons not to be disciplined. There will always be voices telling you to take it easy, to slow down, to indulge. And there will be a quieter voice calling you to obedience, to faithfulness, to self-control. That voice will not shout. You must train yourself to listen to it. If you are waiting for a dramatic moment that will suddenly make discipline easy, you will wait your entire life. Discipline begins with an unremarkable decision made today and repeated tomorrow and the next day and the next. You must be disciplined with what you allow into your life, because what you consume shapes you. What you repeatedly give your attention to will eventually command your devotion. Discipline guards your attention. You must be disciplined with your commitments, because faithfulness is proven over time. Undisciplined people overpromise and underdeliver. Disciplined people commit carefully and follow through consistently. Do not underestimate the power of one disciplined habit practiced faithfully. It can change the trajectory of your life, and do not underestimate the danger of one undisciplined habit tolerated repeatedly. It can slowly destroy everything you value. This is not a call to intensity for a week. It is a call to obedience for a lifetime. Discipline that endures is not fueled by emotion, but by conviction. Conviction that your life is meant for more than drifting. Conviction that obedience is worth the cost. Conviction that faithfulness matters even when it is unseen. You must be disciplined because no one else can do this for you. No one else can choose for you. No one else can deny your impulses. No one else can live your life with intention. Responsibility rests on you, and if you choose discipline, you will not always feel strong, but you will become strong. You will not always feel focused, but you will gain clarity. You will not always feel victorious, but you will be faithful. And faithfulness over time produces a life that is not wasted, a life that stands firm, a life that is ordered, rooted, and able to endure when the storms come, and the pressure increases, and the comforts fade, and the excuses no longer satisfy, and all that remains is who you have become through quiet, relentless practice of daily obedience and self-control and submission to what is right, even when everything in you wanted what was easy and familiar and undemanding, and you chose discipline again and again and again until it shaped not just your actions, but your desires and your character and the direction of your life, and you realized that discipline was never about restriction, but about becoming the kind of person who could stand, endure, and remain faithful when it mattered most, and when no one else was there to see. Discipline is obedience in daily, unseen choices, and this truth confronts everything in us that craves recognition, ease, and immediacy. Most people imagine obedience as something dramatic, something public, something proven in moments of crisis or sacrifice that others can admire. But real obedience is quiet. It is ordinary. It lives in moments so small they seem insignificant, and that is precisely why they are so revealing. What you do when no one is watching exposes what truly governs your life. Not your words, not your intentions, not your beliefs as you describe them, but your habits when there is no applause and no pressure from others. Daily obedience is rarely impressive. It does not feel powerful. It often feels repetitive, restrictive, and even boring. That is why so many reject it. They want transformation without monotony, growth without routine, strength without submission. But obedience does not announce itself with emotion. It simply shows up again the next day and does what is right regardless of how it feels. Discipline is choosing what is right when nothing inside you is excited about choosing it. It is not waiting for desire to change before acting, but acting in alignment with truth until desire is reshaped. Unseen choices matter because they shape the direction of your life more than any visible moment ever will. Public victories are built on private faithfulness. What you do in secret eventually determines what you become in the open. There is no shortcut around this reality. You cannot neglect discipline in private and expect strength in public. You cannot live carelessly when no one sees and stand firm when pressure arrives. When unseen obedience is absent, collapse is only a matter of time. Daily discipline confronts the tyranny of feelings. Feelings are unstable, shifting with circumstances, energy levels, and mood. If you obey only when you feel motivated, you are not living with discipline. You are living under emotional dictatorship. Obedience rooted in discipline acts independently of feeling. It says, "This is right, therefore I will do it, even if I am tired, even if I am discouraged, even if I see no immediate benefit." This kind of obedience trains the soul to trust truth more than emotion. The unseen nature of discipline exposes our motives. Many people will do what is right when they are being observed, evaluated, or praised, but remove the audience, remove the consequences, remove the recognition, and obedience weakens. That reveals that the obedience was never about what was right, but about how it made them appear. Discipline purifies motive by stripping away external reward. It teaches you to obey because it is right, not because it is noticed. There is a deep discomfort in daily obedience because it forces confrontation with self. You cannot blame others in private. You cannot hide behind circumstances when you are alone with your choices. Unseen obedience removes excuses. It brings clarity. It reveals whether you truly value what you claim to value. What you consistently obey in secret is what you actually believe is important, regardless of what you say in public. Discipline in unseen choices is slow work. It does not deliver immediate results. That slowness tests patience and exposes whether you are committed to process or addicted to outcome. Many abandon obedience because they see no instant change. They expect discipline to produce visible results quickly, and when it does not, they assume it is ineffective. But discipline works beneath the surface long before it is visible. It strengthens roots before it produces fruit. By the time others see the results, the work has already been done in obscurity. Daily obedience also requires humility. It acknowledges that you cannot trust yourself to drift in the right direction. It admits that without structure, without intentional restraint, you will naturally move toward ease and compromise. Pride resists discipline because pride believes it should not have to be constrained. Pride wants exceptions. Discipline says there are no exceptions, not because you are weak, but because you are human. Unseen discipline builds integrity, because integrity is consistency between who you are in private and who you present in public. Without daily obedience, integrity becomes performance. Discipline removes the gap between appearance and reality. It aligns behavior with conviction even when no one would ever know if you chose otherwise. That alignment creates inner stability. You are no longer divided between who you pretend to be and who you actually are. There is also a cumulative power in unseen choices that most people underestimate. One disciplined decision seems insignificant, but repeated daily, it becomes formative. The soul is shaped by repetition. What you practice becomes instinct. What you repeat becomes character. Discipline trains you to obey before you argue with yourself. Over time, obedience becomes less reactive and more natural, not because it is easier, but because you have trained yourself to respond rightly. Unseen obedience also guards against hypocrisy. Hypocrisy thrives where there is external conformity without internal submission. Discipline closes that gap. It insists that obedience is not situational but comprehensive. It does not allow you to compartmentalize life, to be faithful in visible areas and careless in hidden ones. Discipline demands wholeness. There is a cost to this kind of obedience. It will cost comfort, because comfort prefers convenience over consistency. It will cost self-indulgence, because obedience often requires denial. It will cost excuses because discipline removes the safety net of justification, but the cost is purposeful. What discipline takes away, it replaces with strength, clarity, and peace that cannot be produced any other way. Daily obedience also teaches endurance. When obedience is practiced only in moments of inspiration, it collapses under pressure, but obedience practiced daily, unseen, builds resilience. It prepares you for difficulty before difficulty arrives. When trials come, disciplined obedience does not need to be invented. It is already established. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall back on what you have practiced. Unseen discipline exposes the illusion of neutrality. Many believe that small choices do not matter, that neglect is harmless, but there is no neutral ground. Every choice is shaping you. Every neglected discipline is training you as well, just in the opposite direction. Doing nothing is not passive, it is formative. Daily obedience recognizes this and refuses to let neglect dictate growth. There is also a seriousness to unseen obedience that modern culture resists. We are taught to pursue ease, to avoid discomfort, to maximize pleasure. Discipline stands in quiet opposition to that narrative. It says that meaning is found not in indulgence, but in faithfulness. That life is not improved by doing whatever feels good, but by doing what is right consistently. Discipline does not eliminate struggle. Often it intensifies it. When you commit to daily obedience, you become more aware of resistance within yourself. Laziness protests, desire rebels, emotion complains. But this struggle is not a sign of failure. It is evidence of training. Discipline does not silence resistance immediately. It teaches you not to be ruled by it. Unseen obedience also protects against self-deception. It is easy to believe you are disciplined because you agree with discipline in theory, but theory requires no sacrifice. Daily obedience forces belief into action. It reveals whether your convictions have weight or whether they are merely intellectual preferences. The quiet nature of discipline can feel lonely. There is no crowd to affirm you, no immediate validation, no visible progress to point to. This loneliness tests whether your obedience is rooted in conviction or dependent on encouragement. Discipline matures you by teaching you to obey without reinforcement. Over time, unseen obedience reshapes desire. At first, discipline feels imposed, like resistance against what you want. But repeated obedience begins to reorient the heart. What once felt forced becomes valued. What once felt restrictive becomes protective. Discipline does not merely control behavior, it retrains affection. Daily unseen choices also cultivate faithfulness. Faithfulness is not dramatic, it is steady. It is showing up again and again to do what is required. Discipline sustains faithfulness when enthusiasm fades. Without discipline, faithfulness is replaced by cycles of intensity and collapse. There is a profound difference between people who wait to be compelled and people who choose obedience without pressure. The first are reactive, the second are governed. Discipline moves you from reaction to intention. It allows you to live deliberately rather than impulsively. Unseen obedience also prepares you to be trusted. Trust is built where consistency is proven. No one is entrusted with weighty responsibility without evidence of faithfulness in small things. Discipline proves reliability long before opportunity appears. Those who despise small acts of obedience disqualify themselves from greater ones. Daily discipline exposes the lie that freedom means absence of restraint. In reality, freedom is the ability to do what is right consistently. Undisciplined people are not free. They are reactive, controlled by appetite, mood, and circumstance. Discipline liberates by establishing self-governance. There will be days when obedience feels meaningless, when progress is invisible, when effort seems wasted. Those are the days discipline matters most. Anyone can obey when results are obvious. Obedience in obscurity proves sincerity. It is easy to be faithful when obedience is rewarded quickly. It is harder and more formative when it is not. Unseen discipline is also an act of reverence toward truth. It treats truth as authoritative, not negotiable. It obeys even when obedience is inconvenient. This reverence deepens conviction and sharpens conscience. If daily obedience is neglected, erosion begins quietly, standards soften, compromise grows, what once troubled you becomes normal. Discipline interrupts that erosion, it maintains vigilance, it keeps the soul awake. The power of unseen obedience is that it builds a life that does not depend on circumstances to function. Whether praised or ignored, rewarded or overlooked, discipline continues. That consistency produces inner strength that cannot be shaken easily. Many want transformation without submission. Discipline insists that submission comes first. You do not obey because you are already strong. You obey to become strong. You do not wait until discipline feels natural. You practice discipline until it becomes part of you. Daily unseen choices are where identity is formed, not in declarations, but in repetition. You become what you obey. Discipline ensures that what you obey is aligned with truth rather than impulse. This kind of obedience is costly because it demands everything while offering nothing immediate. But over time, it gives what nothing else can give: stability, integrity, endurance, and a life that is not fractured by inconsistency. Discipline is not about achieving perfection. It is about refusing to live carelessly. When discipline governs unseen choices, life gains coherence. Decisions are no longer chaotic. Direction becomes clearer. Energy is focused. Distraction loses power. Discipline does not simplify life by removing responsibility, but by ordering it. The tragedy is not that discipline is difficult. The tragedy is that so few are willing to embrace difficulty for the sake of what is lasting. Daily unseen obedience asks for patience, humility, and perseverance. It asks you to value who you are becoming more than how you feel today. In the end, unseen discipline determines whether your life is shaped intentionally or left to drift. Every day offers countless small opportunities to obey or to ignore. Those moments pass quickly, unnoticed by others, but they accumulate, shaping the trajectory of your life in ways that only become clear much later. When strength or weakness is no longer theoretical but visible in how you stand, how you endure, how you respond under pressure, how you remain faithful without recognition, how you continue in obedience when nothing urges you forward except conviction and the quiet resolve to do what is right again today, and then again tomorrow and again, when the effort feels heavy and the path feels long and the reward feels distant and the choice remains the same in the silence of ordinary moments where discipline lives and obedience is proven, and character is formed without noise or spectacle or acknowledgement, but through steady submission in the unseen places of life.